Hello and welcome to this month's edition of Stanley Spotlight. This month I have Dolly, Clayton with me from the Department of Social Services. The Department of Social Services is actually a unique department in that it's a division of our Consolidated Human Services Department. And so the Consolidated Human Services Department being the Public Health Department and the Social Services Department. So the Social Services Department really focuses on children, adults. I mean, it really does a lot of things for a lot of folks in our community. What is the general mission of the Social Services Department?
The goal of social services is to promote the self-sufficiency and improve the quality of life for Stanley County residents.
Okay. So many programs and services to address critical needs for children, adults. One of those programs is the income maintenance programs. A lot of folks refer to them as welfare or food stamps or just what general entitlement programs. But internally, we refer to them as income maintenance programs. Generally, because you have to have it's all income based in terms of who qualifies and who doesn't qualify. Talk to me a little about those different income maintenance programs.
So we have three core mandates at social services, and that is to protect children and adults from abuse and neglect. Mm-hmm. And then also we have sort of those public assistance programs, and those are those entitlement programs that you were talking about.
Okay.
And some entitlement programs, basically pretty much anyone who's eligible for those programs gets that service. We do have some other public assistance programs where there's only a certain amount of money, and when the money runs out, we no longer have that available for folks.
Okay. All right. So generally speaking, DSS includes public assistance, do a little bit about child protective services, adult protective services. And so maybe we should just kind of cover them one at a time to help the viewers kind of get a better understanding of all those different things. So when it comes to public assistance, food stamps, the food and nutrition program is probably one of our larger programs. What is food stamps, and how do you even get enrolled in food stamps? What is it? Just kind of cover the basics.
So food stamps is basically, there are several programs. One is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and another program is just the Food and Nutrition Services, food stamps. And basically the general role of that particular program is to help people, provide them with some food, basic food services. And so they get food benefits on what's called an electronic benefits card, kind of like a credit card. And they can go to the grocery store and get whatever food that they want.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that. How much money are we talking about that comes into our local economy that is spent by folks in our community at various grocery stores? And what kind of funding are we talking about? I mean, $10 a week, $100 a week, $200 a week, and then all cumulatively, what is that number? What kind of economic impact is that having?
So all the income maintenance programs together bring in about $108 million into the county, and so that's pretty substantial. And when you look at specifically at food and nutrition services and Medicaid, that ends up being about $96 million of those dollars that bring into the economy, the local economy.
Okay, so it's a fairly substantial amount of money that's flowing through the local economy to grocery stores. Obviously, the grocery stores are employing people. Goods and services, and so there's certainly an economic benefit. There's some economic benefit to that funding flowing, obviously, not only just to the individual who's getting those services.
Correct.
Okay. Medicaid's another program that is considered an income maintenance type of program that really focuses on health. What are some of the distinctions for the Medicaid programs? Adults, children, help the viewers understand what is Medicaid.
So Medicaid is sort of like your health insurance, and we offer full coverage Medicaid for the aged and the blind and the disabled. And then we have some partial Medicaid coverage that covers their Medicaid premiums and co-payments for Medicare. And then under families and children, we also have some full Medicare coverage for parents who are caretakers of minor children. And all these programs require certain income limits and asset limits. But in Stanley County in 2021, we had over 15,000 individuals who received Medicaid.
So if someone generally out there that's watching this and says, well, I know somebody who potentially could benefit from food stamps or Medicaid because of the situation they're in and needs that safety net. What would you encourage them to do? Do they just call you? Do they stop by your office? What should someone do if they think they may potentially could qualify?
So the great thing about these programs is that there's no wrong door. You can go online, and there's a government website, epass.nc.gov, that people can go on and apply for all those different programs on the same website.
Right.
They also can come in person and apply through an interview with one of our staff. They also can call on the phone and say, hey, I would like to apply for this information and for this benefit, and then give the information that they have. They can also download an application from the website and then just drop it off at our front desk, and then the staff will call and follow up with them later.
Okay. So lots of opportunities for folks to interact and engage with you all to see if they qualify.
Yes.
Okay. Another income maintenance, or may not be considered income maintenance so much as it is an entitlement program, are daycare subsidies for working parents who may just not have the ability to pay the market rate price for daycare in the community. How does that program work?
So daycare subsidy is basically a program where folks who qualify who meet certain income limits, and they also may have some other qualifying conditions. So maybe they're working, or maybe they're just low income, or maybe they're trying to go back to school. And so we have certain criteria that they have to qualify for, and then those funds are limited in that we only get a certain amount of money. And so if for some reason we've already filled all of our child care slots, then that person will go on the waiting list. Fortunately, the state does periodically give us some additional money, and so we can take folks off the waiting list. Currently, we have about 83 families on the waiting list, but that's not terrible in that as of like July, we had about 112, so we have been taking folks off the waiting list.
I was going to say, I can remember, within the last 3 to 5 years, that waiting list being close to 200.
Yes.
Now, let me ask a question in terms of how many folks are currently receiving child care subsidies in Stanley County?
I think we have around 300 and some children who are receiving subsidy.
Okay, so that if that's a couple $100 a week in subsidy, and I don't know what's the average subsidy. Do you have any idea? And
I think it's between $200 and $300.
That adds up pretty quick in terms of the amount of money that's coming into the local economy. Obviously, those are children that are now able to afford to go to these daycare facilities. Daycare facilities are open. Obviously, there's money to be made there. They're private sector employers, and so they have their employment generators for folks and job opportunities. So always looking at this on the coin on both sides. There's a benefit to the individual who potentially qualifies because of their financial situation, but also it impacts our local economy. So what about low income energy assistance? This is something we hear about a lot in the wintertime. Obviously, as it gets cold outside and folks are having to run, whether it be fuel heat or their electric heat is burning up because they're trying to stay warm inside. What program, this low income energy assistance program, how does that work?
So basically, it's the same sort of application process. You can go to the epass.nc.gov and apply online, or you can apply in person. We do have a couple of different sects. So the initial pot of money is for individuals who are elderly or disabled, and so that runs from December 1 until January 1st. After January 1st, anyone can apply for that pot of money, and it is a limited amount of money that we have allocated to our county, and once the money runs out, then the program is no longer available. But it's the same basic premise. The payment goes directly to the energy vendor. And so the energy vendor, whoever that is enrolled with us as a provider, and we make a payment directly to them if you come in and apply for that assistance. There are income criteria as well, and so you have to meet eligibility criteria, but once you meet that, then we can make those payments for you. And we actually could provide payment to any type of energy, so even wood, we could do a wood funding as well.
Gotcha. So if someone burns wood as their source of heat, you could make a payment to whoever they purchased the wood from.
Yes.
And I think it's important that folks understand that those payments don't go to the individual. They go, they could potentially get diverted and spent a different way. These payments are directed to the city of Albemarle or Duke Energy or Piedmont Natural Gas or whoever the energy provider is. Not necessarily, they're not going specifically to the individual.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that's important for clarifications. A lot of times folks think, well, these people are just getting, they get this money and then, they don't spend it on what they, need to spend it on it. In these instances, these are going directly to the provider of that energy.
Yes.
New program that's come out as well is for water cutoffs. And I assume water and sewer are sort of tied together, so it's water and sewer. What's that program look like?
So basically, it's the same, similar as the low-income energy assistance program, but this one is specifically for the water provider. And so some individuals may have a separate water and a separate utility for their sewer, but the payment could be made to both and/or either in the case that as long as the utility is enrolled in the program.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit. We've talked sort of through our, the income eligibility types of programs that we have that you guys administer, but there's also this piece of looking out after children and child protective services. And those are more our social workers that are out there working in the community, trying to make sure that kids are safe and a good in a home that's nurturing and all those kinds of things. So, child protective services. What age are you targeting there with child protective services?
So we're talking 0 to 18 years of age.
Okay. And how are you all made aware of, that a kid may potentially be abused or neglected?
So in North Carolina, everyone is a mandated reporter, and that means that anyone who suspects child abuse or neglect or the exploitation of a disabled adult is mandated to make a report to the local Department of Social Services. And we receive those reports, and then based on the information that's provided during the report, then we make a determination through the screening process as to how we will respond to that particular report.
Okay, so once let's say I see something that appears to be abuse, and so I report that. You all take that in through an intake process, and then it's assigned to a social worker or some series of social workers, and then they would begin an investigation of some sort?
Yes, so we have two distinct tracks one an investigation comes in, we have a family assessment track, and then we have an investigative track, and depending on the severity of the abuse that's alleged determines which track that we go on. Mm-hmm. And then once we complete that investigation, engage in that investigation, then we may provide some in-home services, and basically those in-home services are when we do not take custody of the children. We believe the children are safe in the home, but we provide some additional supports or resources to the family so that they can get what they need in order to not have that child be in that same situation again that caused that initial report.
Very good. Another program that you guys do for young children, foster care and adoption services. Mm-hmm. Both programs provide, for children, trying to keep, obviously, trying to keep children together or trying to keep them in a family unit of some sort. What is foster care? I mean, what's the purpose of foster care? How could somebody potentially become a foster care parent if they wanted, if they were, so inclined?
So foster care happens whenever sometimes we are not able to provide in-home services for whatever reason. The children are no longer safe in their home. And so we remove the children from the home for their safety and place them with a foster family. And that foster family has gone through a number of background checks and assessments and different kinds of medical checks and things like that. Their home gets assessed. And once they identify that they want to do that, then they complete some training and they provide information to us about what it is that they want to, how they want to parent with family. And then the training that they go through is actually a model parenting where the parents, the foster parents work in conjunction with the biological parents. And so it's a partnership rather than an adversarial type relationship, because the goal is for these children to return home. And so they want to make sure that they do everything they can to support the family.
Right. Now, foster care, I'm assuming, it could be just somebody in the community that is interested in being a foster parent and taking children in who are in an unfortunate situation where they have to be removed from the home. But I'm assuming it could also be a family member that is interested in potentially, brother, sister of the parent that may be interested. Is it both, or does it matter? Or do you try to keep them with a relative? How does that work?
So yes, so if the family that we're involved with identifies a person, and they may be a relative or may not, then that becomes a kinship placement if they make it through the background checks and they're suitable, and we can ascertain that the children will be safe, then we will place children with those kinship type placements, rather than it be a formal foster parent that they've never met before.
Gotcha. So there'd be a distinction between a kinship where they may go live with a relative that you deem safe versus a foster care parent, which would be someone who they didn't have a relationship with or have no knowledge of, and this is just somebody who's trained to take children and take care of them while you try to transition them and get them back in the home at some point.
Yes, and we do encourage, if kinship placements are interested, to complete the information relative to becoming a licensed foster placement, because there are some advantages to being a licensed foster parent.
Right. How about adoption services? What does that all entail?
So with adoption services, when it's determined that the children cannot be returned to their biological family for whatever reason, then certain legal aspects happens to make that child available for adoption. For adoption to happen, there must be a pre-placement assessment where the family gets that same assessment similar to the foster parent type assessment, and determine that, do the background checks and everything to determine that they would be a safe placement for that child. And then once they go through that process, then they can actually go online to NC Kids and look at kids that are available for adoption. And then once they make a selection and the checks all work out and everybody is on board with it, then they can proceed through the legal process to become adoptive parents of that particular child.
Okay, very good. So shifting gears again from child protective services to adult protective services. I think some folks maybe aren't aware that we actually do stuff for adults in terms of protecting them. What would be the age range of those that would fall into adult protective services? And what is adult abuse and neglect or exploiting them? What does that look like?
So for adult protective services, that could be anyone who is over the age of 18 to 100 or plus. Anyone who's an adult could be vulnerable. But the key facet for us is that the person has to be disabled, and they have to be able to make decisions for themselves. And so sometimes we get calls about someone concerned about the way that somebody's living in their house. Maybe it's really dirty or something. But when we go out and we talk to that adult that's living in that home, that's the way they want to live. We can't make them change their mind. And so people have a right to choose however they want to live. And sometimes that's hard for folks who make that report to understand. But if the individual is disabled and for some reason unable to take care of themselves, sometimes we can work with that adult and help them find supports that will help them live independently in their home.
And I'm assuming that disabled is both cognitive and physical.
Yes, that disability could be cognitive or physical. The local Department of Social Services is the only disinterested party that can be appointed as a guardian of a person. And so when someone is unable to make decisions for themselves, then we can become the guardian of a person and help make those decisions for them. Generally, if they have family members, then we'll make those decisions in conjunction with the family members, so we don't make those decisions arbitrarily.
How many folks are you currently providing guardianship services for in Stanley County?
We have about 19 adults for whom we provide guardianship services, and they range in age from the early 20s to late 60s.
Okay. So essentially, you're sort of providing a network of support around those folks so they're not exploited and family members are not trying to take advantage of them or their financial situation. And so you're just sort of helping kind of put a safety net around those individuals. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And sometimes we do get reports from financial institutions when they're concerned about a financial exploitation of an individual. And we will proceed cautiously, but find out. And sometimes we find out that the individual knows exactly what they're doing and they intend to continue giving money to whoever it is. And sometimes they don't realize. And so we try to help them.
Gotcha. So one of the things that probably is social services may be well known for in Stanley County or any county is child support. Just because you have a lot of child support agents that are pretty active out there trying to make sure that those that have children are supporting their children appropriately. If there's a division within the family, so help explain what child support services does and who they are and a little more information about them.
So child support is for the establishment of paternity to get financial support from that individual. Sometimes there is child support that comes from mothers as well, so it's not just always.
Does it go the other way
too? It goes the other way too. It's not just always the guys that are getting support, but generally whoever the primary caregiver is needs additional support, financial support for that child, and then child support will write those orders and pursue the prosecution of those individuals if they are not paying for non-payment of child support, and then folks could be put into jail if they're not paying.
Right. Okay. How much money do you recoup for as a result of our child support agents being involved in these cases? How much money do you, on an annual basis, is brought in back to the mother or father to help support me? Any idea? I mean, what
I don't know what the individual amount is, but they definitely bring in quite a bit of money every month. It's probably over $200,000 or something like that per month that we're bringing in.
So that's a fairly significant amount of money that's going to help children that that may or may not reach the children. That is sort of made sure that does happen, so that these children have the financial support they need to be successful.
Yeah.
So that's very good. About in-home aid services, that shifting gears back to adults again. Do you all provide any support for folks in their homes? If they're elderly, aging, disabled, what types of services may be available through social services for those types of folks?
Yeah, so we have certain individuals that just need a little bit of support in their home, and so there's like some basic house cleaning and sometimes running errands for them and things like that. We have a very small capacity to provide this service because we don't have that many workers who do that, but we do provide that service and basically just do a couple of different kind of things that they just needed some help with.
So DSS also provides transportation services to folks, not directly, but you all contract typically through our local SCUSA, Stanley County Umbrella Services Agency, for transportation. Who qualifies for transportation? Why would someone use social services or contact social services for transportation? Is there certain programs that would make somebody eligible for transportation services?
So if you have Medicaid, then you're eligible generally for the Medicaid transportation, which is what that piece is. With the Medicaid transformation, there have been quite a few changes in that everyone has their individual health plan now, and the individual health plans, for the most part, are coordinating some of that transportation. We still have some clients for whom we are responsible for providing that transportation, but depending on your health plan, then you call the broker for your particular health plan in order to get transportation. But we do provide transportation for some, and if you don't know who to call, then you certainly can call us at DSS for your Medicaid transportation so that you can get to your doctor's appointment timely.
Very good, very good. Probably one of the programs that's sort of more obscure and not as prominent in your group of services are services for the blind and visually impaired. What services do you all provide for those folks in our community?
So we have an embedded social worker from the Department of Health and Human Services at the state level who comes to our office periodically, and she serves clients in our community who are visually impaired or blind. And some of the things that she helps them with is getting assistive technology. So sometimes they just need a little bit of help with or maybe they need information and training on Braille services and learning how to read Braille. And she also helps them with helping them make accommodations for their workplace. So maybe they're gradually losing their sight and they need some accommodations at work, and she helps them sort of figure that out as well. And she also actually does some job placement type work with them, helping them find jobs.
Very good, very good. So someone wanted to know where to find social services. Where exactly are you located?
So we're located in Stanley County Commons. We're located at 1000 North 1st Street.
Okay. What's the big landmark that folks should look for? Because some folks may say, all right, great, that's wonderful, Stanley Commons. Is there something nearby that folks would say, oh, you're near there? So
yeah, we're near the Atrium Hospital.
Very
and
good.
It used to be the old Quimby Mall.
Okay, well, and for some folks that'll mean something, the old Quimby Mall. So, and what hours are you normally open?
We're normally open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay.
However, I will note that our social workers who do adult protective services and child protective services do work 7 days a week and 24 hours a day. And so if you have to make a report for child abuse and neglect, then certainly you'll want to call us regardless of the hour.
Okay. Because basically you can make that phone call at any time, and they sort of check that 24/7.
Yes.
And so because we certainly don't want a situation where someone has been abused or neglected, and it's a very serious situation. We want to be able to address those quickly, I would assume, and not let them linger for a whole weekend.
Yes.
So very good. Anything else you'd like to share with the viewers about social services, your impact in the community, maybe a service we didn't talk about that you feel is important to mention?
Yes, we do a whole lot of stuff, and so we are really working on, we want people to be independent and self-sufficient, and so if folks need to access these services, then we would encourage them to do that. And then we also want to protect children and adults, and so even though sometimes our social workers get a bad rap, they're doing great work out in the field, connecting folks to resources, and if we don't have the resource that they need when they come to our office, then we make sure they get connected to that resource. And so we have some very dedicated staff. We have roughly 95 positions at our agency, and so it's it's the second largest department in the county.
Right.
And they do great work, and they're very diligent and dedicated.
Yeah. So a lot of and you say 95 positions, and those run the gamut between the income maintenance, entitlement programs like food stamps and Medicaid, to adult protective services and child protective services, child support. So when you say 95 positions, that's not one single program. That is the whole of social services, correct?
Yes.
Supervisors, administrative support positions, everything. Okay, very good. Well, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time and sharing the wealth of information you have about social services. And thank you for joining us on this month's edition of Stanley Spotlight. We'll be back here next month. Thank you.